All right. Welcome back to another episode. This is Mike Perkins, one half of MVP, one half of Opinions I Like Podcast, one half of Mike and Vince Perkins. And for this here, I am the whole show. Okay. You saw the thumbnail. You saw the title. Okay. So, unless you've been living under a rock, Tory Lanez was found guilty on all 3 charges. Getting him immediately arrested, I think, and possibly or imminently deported. And I think we're looking at, I think he's gonna eventually appeal, at least it sounds like he's gonna appeal. But the title is What is Reasonable Doubt? So in looking at this case, as just an observer, casual observer, not a guy who's a lawyer, never been a lawyer, but what is reasonable doubt? And you saw the little Jay-Z, in the thumbnail, and I know the dad said, Rock Nation is, certainly a part of this. I thought that was, poetic justice, if you will, or just irony, not poetic justice, irony, that we needed reasonable doubt and, the Jay-Z, whatever. All right, bars. But what is reasonable doubt? So let's start from the beginning, because I think that it's important to kind of start from the beginning of this whole thing and understand, what the job of prosecutors are and what's the job of a defense team. So starting from the beginning, the prosecution, or the state in this case, their job is to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Tory, in this case, is guilty of said crimes beyond a reasonable doubt. Starting from the beginning, Meg had 4 different accounts of the story. We'll start with the initial story, which is that she stepped on glass. Now, she explained why she said she stepped on glass, but in her story, she stepped on glass. In her first story, she didn't mention a gun. She didn't mention being shot. She didn't mention a fight. She didn't mention leaving. She didn't mention the reason for leaving or the reason. She didn't mention any of that stuff. That was her first outing, if you will, or first go around on what the story was. Okay? The second story that she told was the one she told on Instagram Live, whereas she said Tory just dry shot her for no reason. They was arguing, the 2 people in the car were arguing. She, wanted to leave. She just didn't want to be there. And then she was walking away, and Tory just reached out the car, shot her. In this story, again, she doesn't mention a fight. She doesn't mention going back and forth. She doesn't mention the context. She doesn't mention the fight. She doesn't mention any of the things that we would eventually know that were true. She didn't mention the sexual relationship between her and Tory. She didn't mention any of those things. She left all of that out. All the context of why the argument was happening, the party before. She left out the drinking part. She left out all of the things that would have gave context to why things happened. Her third story was on Gayle King, whereas she denied the sexual relationship with Tory Lanez. She didn't mention the fight at all. She didn't mention the scuffle that she had, the skerfuffle that she had with Kelsey. She didn't mention the party or leaving the party and then coming back. She didn't mention all the context, of course, denying the relationship, sexual relationship with Tory. Of course, kind of prohibits her from mentioning the context of the actual argument. And she doesn't mention the fight, of course. And she doesn't mention, what else did she leave out? Oh, she adds dance bitch to it. This is the inception of dance bitch. So introducing dance bitch. Then what you have is the fourth story, which is the story that she told on the stand. In this story, she does mention leaving and going back to the car. In this story, she does mention not a fight, but she mentions bumping Kelsey. She mentions bumping Kelsey. Now, again, the eyewitness, which I'll get into, in a little bit, the eyewitness certainly said more than there was just a bump. But what happened in her story was that she admits that there was a bump. She now admits to the sexual relationship between her and her and Tori. In the previous story, she said she turned around and saw Tori shooting her and then turned back because she saw him shooting her. In this story, she said she never saw him with the gun. She just saw him, and then and her pop. So 4 different versions from one, I guess star witness, because you're the one that got shot. So the prosecution's best witness would be the person who was in it, who survived. So 4 different stories. Okay. Kelsey has 2 versions of the story, at least 2. She has the story that she told, or 3 maybe. She has the story that she told the DA or the initial people that were there. I don't know who was there. I don't think it was a district attorney. I think it probably was. However it goes, she has the initial people that she told, which I don't think she told them that Tori shot Meg. Then she has the story that she told Meg's bodyguard, which is that Tori actually shot Meg. And then she has the plead the fifth, I never saw him with a gun, he didn't threaten me version of the story that she told on the stand. Tori's, at least as far as I know, I haven't really heard anything from Tori. Tori's only version of the story that I've heard is that he didn't shoot her. Otherwise, there's no reason to be on defense. It's just, hey, I did it, whatever. But as far as I know, the only version of the story that he has is that he did not shoot her. Okay. Now you have the eyewitness's story, which is that there were 2 girls. They were fighting. He saw the car stop. I'm guessing that he heard them being loud, because if you're fighting, you're probably not, quiet. So he heard them arguing, of which that happens, whatever. He heard them arguing. He saw the 2 girls fighting for a long time. Let's say a boxing round, maybe like 2 or 3 minutes. He saw that. Then what he saw was the bigger and little guy break them up violently. Then he saw one of the girls go to the car and then come back, and then a muzzle flash from her hand. Then he saw the second guy, the smaller guy, come and grab at her hand, 2 more muzzle flashes. And then afterward, after everything, they're trying to wrestle and split everybody up. And then he said at the end of it, he saw the shorter guy shooting in the air. Okay. So those are, what is that? Is that 11 stories? 11 or 12 stories? 11 or 12 different stories. And it goes to my question, what is reasonable doubt? Okay. What is reasonable doubt? Reasonable doubt is a reasonable or an understandable, because I don't want to use the same word, an understandable reason to kind of think something didn't happen. If there's 6 versions of the story 7 versions of the story between 2 women, wouldn't that be enough to be reasonable doubt? Let's not even do that. Let's do this. Usually, when you're the prosecution, you have a theory or a version of the story that would at least make sense to draw the conclusion that what you're saying or what you're prosecuting for, the charges, are true. I would ask anybody under the sound of my voice, what is the prosecution's theory? Because if I'm to listen to Meg's 4 versions of the story, or listen to Kelsey's 3 versions of the story, I don't get a theory. Because the only theory is that Tory just shot her. I mean, it's sprinkle in there that she said that his career is not popping like you think it is. So they had an argument. Your career is not popping like you think it is. And then he shot her. So I'm to believe that over the prosecution, the defense's theory, which is that Tory was having sex with both of them. Kelsey didn't know that Meg was having sex with Tory. Found it out. Then, after that, an argument ensued. They started fighting. Now, look, if we have to admit that the fight happened, then on some level, we have to understand that at least those two women were at odds. I'm to believe that it is more probable that a man being told that his career isn't popping like he think it is causes him to get in an uproar enough to shoot a woman in her foot versus a woman being enraged enough to start a fight over the fact that her friend keeps backdooring her words. And then they get into a fight of which, the guy reported that I guess she was losing. I mean, Meg is kind of tall. Meg is like 5'10" or something like that. The girl is not taller than Tory. So, it is what it is. A fight that she was losing. And not only was she losing the fight, she knew somehow that there was a gun in the car, went to the car, grabbed the gun, and then shot at Meg. I mean, I guess with the intent to hurt her, because, whatever. But I'm to believe that telling a man that his career isn't popping is more enraging than losing a fight to the woman who keeps backdooring you and having sex with all the guys that you have sex with. So that the prosecution's theory is just that his ego is just entirely too fragile. And so that a woman telling him that his career isn't popping kind of made him go to the point of extreme grabbing a gun and shooting this woman in the foot. Is that what the prosecution wants 12 jurors to believe? Is that what 12 jurors actually believed? Do you flipping believe that? Now, I'm not saying he didn't shoot her, but you would have to make me believe by the eyewitnesses' testimony that Kelsey shot 3 times, bang, 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 and then Tory said, "Give me the gun. I want to shoot her next, bang, bang." And in the midst of all of that, there's no reasonable doubt. No conclusive DNA on the gun. No DNA found on the magazine. My DNA isn't found on the magazine, and my DNA is inconclusive on the gun. How are we making this my gun? Did I ever load it? Kelsey, by the eyewitness account, went to the car to actually go get the gun. If it's Tory's car, and they had only been in the car that time, why do they know that it's a gun? Why does any of them know that it's a gun in the car? Why does either of them know that there's a gun in the car? If, in fact, there is a gun in the car, why would they know that there's a gun in the car if it's Tory's gun? Because Kelsey didn't fumble around by the eyewitness testimony. The eyewitness's testimony said she walked to the car and went right back. Beeline, right back. Now, if I'm to believe she went to the car, got the gun, and then went right back, then I'm to believe she knew where the gun was. Why would she know where the gun was if it's Tory's gun? Now, I'm not saying he didn't shoot her. I'm just saying, what is reasonable doubt if we're having a conversation about reasonable doubt? Because you have to prove guilt beyond the reasonable doubt. 4 different stories from Meg, 3 different stories from Kelsey. That's reasonable doubt. Lying on the stand, pleading the fifth, a story that leaves out the most. I mean, the detail about them fighting and why they were fighting, people undermine that, because I saw the live from Tamika Mallory and My Son, of which I just, you'll never get this. Obviously, I'm not that popular. I'm not that popping, and I mean, I don't even know if I want to be popping for this one. I just had to get these thoughts out of my head so I could stop thinking them. But if I was his brother, or if I was his friend, or if I was his guy, my son, I would say sit this one out, bro. I would say sit this one out. This reeks. There are no lawyers. Every lawyer that I've seen make an assessment of this said that it's a miscarriage of justice. A miscarriage of justice. Reasonable doubt all off and through this. Reasonable doubt all off and through it. If you believe the independent eyewitness, the unbiased, impartial eyewitness, then at the very least, you give him possession of the gun, like he had the gun. That's it. 1 out of the 3. But to say he intentionally tried to shoot her implies that he had to have a reason. Again, ask yourself, what is the prosecution's theory on why he shot her? I mean, as a dude, personally, like I said before, I think I said this before, I've had the luxury, the good grace, you know what I'm saying, the good fortune of being able to have sex with, not at the same time. I'm not balling like that, but I've had the good fortune to have had sex with 2 girls that were friends. It was some months apart, but it happened. I not one time thought that I wanted to hurt these 2 females. It didn't make sense to me. As a man, I don't think that that's even crossing your mind once you get into the zone where you're having sex with one female and then the other. The only 2 that really had a reason to actually fight or be upset were the 2 that were the friends. Because nobody's betraying Tory. Nobody's betraying Tory. And again, I would say to my son, I would sit this one out. And I think that all men who are trying to I stand with Meg this situation, just sit this one out. Not that, she was shot. Hey man, she was shot. Let's say she was shot. The trial was not about whether she got shot or not. The trial was about whether Tory did it. The eyewitness saw the girl shoot first. Is that not reasonable doubt? Because you have 2 women who said they didn't even see Tory with the gun. Then you have one guy, the eyewitness, who said he saw the muzzle flash, 3 shots, come from the girl. Unless you believe that Tory said, give me the gun, let me shoot her too, then you have to believe that he was trying to save Meg from imminent danger, which was, Kelsey shooting at her and trying to injure her, with the shots. Because I imagine she was shooting down, or maybe she wasn't. Maybe she was shooting at her and then Tory trying to smack the gun away or trying to take the gun away from her, whatever. But you have to believe that there's reasonable doubt somewhere in that concoction of 10 stories. And so that I would encourage everyone, especially dudes, to just, we're going to do our content for now and then just get radio silent about this. Get radio silent. No need for us to say this is some bullshit. We know it's obviously bullshit. It's bullshit. And it's not bullshit. It's bullshit because reasonable doubt. What is reasonable doubt if this is not reasonable doubt? I'm not saying the girl didn't get shot. I'm just saying that if the eyewitness saw the girl shoot the girl, then why aren't we saying there's reasonable doubt? Because no testimony from either of them under oath puts the gun in Tory's hand. And if that's not reasonable doubt, I don't know what it is. But that's going to be my time, man. Thank you for all the subscriptions, all the subscribers, brother. All the likes, all the love. I'm again going to start, keep trying to kick these out. I got a break from school, a couple weeks off. So I'm going to try to start just kicking out and start kicking out these pre-records so that I can, so I can give y'all some good content. I feel like y'all deserve it. You all have been very, very good to me. So I want to be good to you. So again, I'm going to leave. This is Mike Perkins, and I am out.